Hi, I'm Mario Anderson, and welcome to In Focus Kentucky, the show where we take a look at issues that matter to you. Each week we talk directly to the lawmakers and community leaders who help shape policy and law that affects you. The results are in. Kentucky received a C- overall on its infrastructure report card, the first true analysis since 2011, and a grade of C means mediocre and requires attention. And joining me to break down this report card and explain what it all means for you as you travel along the Commonwealth is Tom Rockaway. Tom is the chair of the 2019 report card for Kentucky's infrastructure. And Tom, we appreciate you making time to join us on In Focus Kentucky.
Certainly, thank you.
And let's back up first with this particular discussion for people that may not be aware of what this Kentucky Infrastructure Report Card Committee and what the work that you all do is. What exactly is that?
Sure. The purpose of the report card is to help Kentuckians get a better understanding of their infrastructure and the importance of their infrastructure in their everyday lives. We worked with a team of volunteer engineers to really kind of go out and see how things stand and what's happening with our current state of the infrastructure.
Now, the last report card for Kentucky's infrastructure was released in 2011, and was doing some research and saw that the report it actually grades 10 different infrastructure categories.
We try and find, or we work with 10 different primary infrastructure categories and try and do critical assessments within each one to come up with a grade, and then we kind of give it an overall grade very similar to your student report cards.
Let's talk about this particular report. I know that there's a lot to go over in that particular report. It was just recently announced. So what are some of the results of this new report card that came out?
In general, it's a C- grade. Certainly nothing that we should be overly proud of. There's some good news in there, but there's also some very concerning news. It's intended to show that we do need to make sure that we pay attention to our infrastructure. Some components are doing reasonably well. We've got 2 categories which were in the B's, which is pretty good. We had 4 categories which were mediocre performance, and 4 that we probably really need to start paying more attention to.
Now, the members of the committee, are you all the ones who are? Was there research that was been done, and you all process and analyze information, and then base the scores off of that, or is that engineers that have done this work? Or?
Yeah. These are voluntary engineers that we're working with, and we relied on a lot of the existing information that's already maintained within a lot of the state databases. And we were looking at things like current conditions, performance, capacity issues, resilience, funding levels, and a variety of different factors just to see how our infrastructure was performing and how it's going to perform in the future. And we kind of process the information to try and give it a representative grade.
And I was reading that the Kentucky surface transportation categories for like roads and bridges, they actually saw some increases in the report from the previous report. So talk about that.
A little bit. I mean, certainly we had a D for our roads and bridges, which isn't great, but it is certainly improving a little bit. The challenge we have is it takes a lot of effort and maintenance initiative to make sure that we maintain our roads and bridges.
Now, with the last report coming out in 2011, and now we're in 2019, a lot of this information has it been compiled during these years of because obviously Kentucky, 120 counties, and being able to categorize and compile the data. Is it multiple years worth of information gathering?
Certainly, we started looking at information for as many years as we could go back. Our last report card was in 2011, so we tried to bring all that information up to current 2018, 2019 information, and used the state databases to come up with the overall assessments.
Lexington and Louisville are obviously the 2 largest cities in the state of Kentucky, but rural parts of the state, eastern Kentucky, where funding may be more limited to handle infrastructure projects. How did they do, eastern Kentucky areas, when it came to this particular report card? The
report card really tries to look at the state as a whole, and rather than just identifying any very specific areas. Certainly Lexington and Louisville are 2 of the largest communities, but some of the rural communities have equally challenging problems that they're trying to assess, and a lot of those are compounded by the limited funding that's available to some of those rural communities.
One of the big parts of the report as well was hazardous waste as well, and that was a factor into this year's report. Discuss that for us too.
Sure, hazardous waste was our lowest category. We've got about 3,000 entities in the state that generate hazardous waste. We have 20 Superfund sites. We have hundreds of abandoned or unclaimed waste sites in the state. And it's a $1.2 billion projection of the funds needed to start to really mitigate and maintain these facilities. And our state funding just isn't there right now. And if we don't take care of them, it's going to continue to impact our quality of life and our environment.
Well, Tom, we number one appreciate you joining us to make time and making time to be with us to talk about the report card for Kentucky in regards to infrastructure. And we'll continue the conversation with Tom, so stay with us here on In Focus Kentucky. You'll hear more from Tom Rockaway, who is the chair of the 2019 report card for Kentucky's infrastructure.
And a lot of times we don't think about the infrastructure that we don't see. Sometimes we forget about the importance of water, power, and wastewater just because we don't see it. But it does play an immediate role for our day-to-day activities.
But first, we need to get a check of your latest weather on the One's forecast, and that's coming up next after this break.